Thales of Miletus in ancient Greece, the authors of the Hindu Vedas in ancient India, and even the foundational philosophers of East Asian cosmology, they had absolutely no way of communicating with one another.
Right, they were separated by just, impossible distances.
Exactly. Towering mountain ranges, oceans, centuries of time. But when they each looked up at the stars and, like, down at the Earth to try and determine the ultimate origin of the universe, they all independently came to the exact same highly specific conclusion.
Which is honestly one of the most persistent and, well, baffling philosophical overlaps in human history.
Yeah, they all decided that before there was light, before there was solid matter, there was water.
Right, and when entirely disconnected civilizations point to the exact same singular element as the bedrock of reality, I mean, it demands a closer look.
Which is exactly what we are doing on today's deep dive.
Right.
We have a really fascinating mission for you, the listener, today. We are exploring a translated lecture transcript that unpacks the cosmology, the philosophy, and the theology of a Korean new religious movement called Daesun Jinriho.
Yeah, and it is a remarkably dense and rich text. What it does is it pulls together these threads of East Asian philosophy, spiritual practices, and some highly unique theological frameworks to explain, how the universe operates from its largest galaxy right down to a single drop of rain.
Right, but a quick but very important note here on how we are approaching this text before we jump in. The lecture does make profound theological claims. It references Sangjenim, which translates to the supreme being within their tradition.
Right.
So we want to be incredibly clear that we are not here to endorse these texts as like absolute religious truth, nor are we here to debunk them or critique their theology. We are approaching this deep dive with complete impartiality.
Exactly. The value here is in exploring the philosophical framework itself. We're unpacking these sources because they offer this profoundly fascinating intellectual architecture. It's a deeply historical and philosophical perspective on how humanity has tried to understand the cosmos.
Yeah, and it really challenges our modern, often highly mechanical view of the universe and replaces it with something much more fluid.
Much more interconnected, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right.
Because if multiple distinct traditions, including this incredibly intricate East Asian framework, point to water as the beginning of everything, what kind of water are we actually talking about here?
Right, that's the big question.
Because I'm assuming, we aren't talking about the physical H2O coming out of my kitchen faucet.
No, definitely not. To grasp that, we have to travel back to the absolute beginning. So before physical matter, before space, before time itself. The texts introduce this foundational concept known as Tail. Yeah, so if you translate it literally, it means the Great One. But conceptually, the lecture explains it as Great the First. It's the ultimate mother, like the absolute source of everything.
Okay.
And the crucial distinction made in the text is that Tail is not, it's not a personified deity sitting on a cloud directing traffic,
Yeah.
It is described as Wongi or Jigi.
So we're dealing with an energy rather than a cosmic architect.
Exactly. Wongi refers to the original primal energy of existence, and Jigi translates to the ultimate extreme energy.
Oh, wow.
So Tail is the universe's original energy, existing in this state of perfect, undivided unity. So there are no planets, no atoms, no light, just this singular ultimate presence.
That actually makes me think of human biology, specifically like a cosmic stem cell.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because when you look at a stem cell under a microscope, it hasn't differentiated yet, right? It doesn't have a specific form. It isn't a piece of bone. It isn't muscle tissue. It isn't a nerve ending.
Right, it's just pure potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It contains the absolute undivided potential to become any and all of those things. It's an undifferentiated seed. But, and here's my question, if Tail is just this one singular energy, how do we get from a cosmic stem cell to the infinite, messy, highly differentiated variety of the universe we see around us?
Well, the texts answer that by equating this primal energy fundamentally with water. It is a state of dark, boundless potential. The lecture describes it as a deep, dark ocean before light or form even existed.
Oh, man. Which instantly draws a parallel to the book of Genesis, right?
Yeah.
Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters.
Yes. The visual across these global traditions is almost always a dark, watery void. But, and this is vital to understand, this void is not empty nothingness.
Right. It's full of potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you think about the physical nature of water, it has no fixed shape of its own. It takes the shape of whatever vessel holds it. That fluidity is exactly why it represents ultimate potential. It's a state of being that is just brimming with the capacity to become everything, precisely because it hasn't yet decided to be anything specific.
Okay, so we have the raw material. We have this watery cosmic stem cell, tail, swirling in the dark.
Hmm.
But, a pool of potential doesn't just spontaneously organize itself into a functioning reality.
No, it needs a catalyst.
Right, like a stem cell has to divide to build a body. So how does the universe actually build structure out of this boundless water?
It has to split. To build anything at all, you need differentiation. The source material points out something brilliant about the linguistic roots of the word universe here.
Okay.
The characters used in the text translate literally to a big house.
A big house.
Yeah, space and time are simply the dimensions of this house. And to make any house function, you need harmony between distinctly different parts.
Right, I mean, a house isn't just one giant undifferentiated plank of wood.
Yeah.
A floor has to act like a floor,
Mhm.
a ceiling has to act like a ceiling, and walls have to hold them apart. They play different roles.
Exactly. Which means tail must divide. It splits into yin and yang. This division is the absolute prerequisite for existence.
Because without separation, there's no structure.
Right. Without the separation into fundamental opposites, nothing can be built. The lecture actually mentions a famous proverb, Gawa Manzasang, which means family harmony brings success.
Okay, which is a nice practical sentiment for a human household.
It is, but the text argues that true cosmic harmony requires something much larger. It requires Umyanghaptiak.
Okay, let's break down Umyanghaptiak.
So it translates to the perfect harmony or the perfect union of virtues of yin and yang. From this initial split of yin and yang, the energy divides again into 4 elements, then 8 trigrams, basically cascading outward into the infinite complexity of the universe we experience today.
Okay, wait, I actually have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
If yin and yang are fundamental opposites, so literally light and dark, hot and cold, expansion and contraction, doesn't forcing them together under the roof of one big house guarantee conflict rather than harmony?
That's a very natural assumption, yeah.
Because opposites usually clash, right?
Sure.
If I put fire and water in the same room, one destroys the other.
Well, that is exactly the friction that makes existence possible.
Really?
Yeah, the text suggests that life itself is the process of learning about yin and yang. We must experience the conflict. We have to experience joy and sadness, success and failure, light and dark, to truly understand how the universe functions.
Okay.
Think about a battery. A battery only works, it only generates power, because it has a positive and a negative terminal. The friction isn't a flaw in the design of the universe. The friction is the engine that drives it.
Wow, that reframes so much of the human experience. We spend so much of our time trying to avoid the negative aspects of life, trying to eliminate the friction.
Oh, absolutely.
But if this framework is accurate, trying to remove the dark or the cold is basically trying to dismantle the very architecture of the big house.
Exactly.
But wait, if everything is constantly pushing and pulling, why doesn't the house just tear itself apart?
It holds together because of a profound concept called dangi.
Dongi.
Because everything, every star, every person, every blade of grass came from the exact same mother, which is tail. Everything shares a dangi.
Meaning?
This translates to the exact same energy or the same breath. The speaker in the lecture notes that if you look at a piece of a broken roof tile lying in the dirt, it shares this ultimate cosmic kinship with you.
A broken roof tile has the same breath as a human being.
Yeah. It is all the same fundamental water, just temporarily taking different forms. The tile is a highly condensed, rigid form of that original energy, while human consciousness is a more fluid, active form of it. But the baseline material is identical.
That is a wild and honestly beautiful way to look at reality.
Yeah.
It completely redefines what a family is. It's not just biological relatives. You are literally kin to the concrete under your feet.
You really are.
So the house is built. The universe exists. But how we choose to describe the building of that house seems to change how we view its ultimate fate, doesn't it?
It does. And what's fascinating here is the distinction the text makes between Western and Eastern terminology regarding the beginning of the universe. In the West, our philosophical and scientific frameworks heavily rely on the concept of creation.
Right.
The term used in the text for that is Changzhou.
And creation carries a lot of implied baggage. If something is created, it means there is a linear timeline. There was a definitive moment of creation. There is the operational lifespan of the thing created, and eventually a definitive end. The machine eventually stops working.
Right, it suggests a finite existence, but the Eastern concept discussed in the text is Gabeok.
Gabeok. I've actually seen that translated as great opening before.
That is the literal translation, yeah, opening. The heavens open, the earth opens. But think about the logical implication of a door opening. If something opens, it inherently means it must eventually close.
Oh, wow.
And if it closes, it retains the capacity to open again. It replaces the linear timeline of creation with a continuous cyclical rhythm.
So it's cyclical by definition, like a lung expanding and contracting.
Exactly.
And what is amazing is how this ancient philosophical concept perfectly mirrors modern astrophysics. When scientists talk about the Big Bang, that is literally Gabeok, right? The great opening, the explosive outward expansion of space and time.
Yes.
But a major competing theory in astrophysics for the end of the universe is the Big Crunch, where gravity eventually overcomes that expansion and pulls all that matter back together.
Right, closing the door, returning everything to a singular, incredibly dense point.
Which would be the return to tail, that original undifferentiated state of boundless potential. So it's an endless cycle of cosmic reincarnation. The universe breathes out and it breathes in.
The macro scale is entirely driven by this cyclical rhythm of expansion and return. But the source material doesn't just leave us floating in the cosmos. It makes a very specific pivot to the micro scale. The speaker asks, how does this massive cosmic house reflect inside our own human biology?
Oh, that's interesting, because if the universe operates on this massive breathing cycle, it makes you wonder if that same blueprint exists on a smaller scale. Does this cosmological framework actually map onto our physical bodies?
It does, and this is one of the most compelling parts of the lecture. The speaker dives into the literal biology of birth and connects it back to water, specifically amniotic fluid.
Okay.
In Chinese characters, the word for amniotic fluid is yangsu.
Yangsu. Let's break those characters down.
So most people might assume the character for yang in this context means to nurture or to grow, given its biological function. But the text points out that the actual characters used are the character for sheep and the character for water, so sheep water.
Wait, sheep water. Why would classical medicine use a sheep to describe the fluid that grows human life?
To uncover that, you have to look at the traditional 12 zodiac signs. In the zodiac wheel, the sheep represents the deep nurturing and sustaining of life.
Oh, I see.
But the astrological mapping goes even deeper. If you look at the cycle of the 12 animals, the very first sign is the rat, and the very last sign is the pig. According to traditional elemental theory, both the rat and the pig fundamentally represent the element of water.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you take that linguistic and astrological map and apply it to a human being, well, every single person listening to this deep dive right now literally started their life floating in a dark, watery universe.
The womb.
Exactly, the amniotic fluid. We perfectly mimic how the universe itself was born from the dark cosmic waters of Tail. We are born from a watery void, just like the cosmos.
It is entirely fractal. The microscale perfectly mirrors the macro scale. You start in the dark waters of the womb, just as the universe started in the dark potential of Wangi. The conditions for life, whether it's a single human baby or an entire galaxy of stars, they're identical.
It's blowing my mind a little bit because we just take it for granted. We all know we're mostly made of water, but framing human gestation as a biological reenactment of the Big Bang or Gabeok, it's incredible.
It really is.
But that leads to a massive implication, doesn't it? If water is this literal and spiritual foundation, both of the universe and of ourselves, it can't just be neutral background material. The text must have something to say about how we interact with it.
Oh, it does. It takes a very serious turn here regarding the memory and responsiveness of water.
Memory.
Yeah, the sources suggest that because water is the primal foundational energy, because it is Tao, it is essentially a blank slate. It lacks its own fixed ego or form, which makes it hypersensitive to whatever blueprint or intention is projected into it.
Right, because it's the original stem cell is just waiting for instructions.
Precisely. And the text discusses the idea that if you curse water or project hatred, anger, and violent intention into it, the water actually remembers that energy.
Whoa.
It absorbs the blueprint of your hostility and effectively becomes poisoned on an energetic level. The lecture warns that the world right now is full of this toxic water energy because the sheer volume of human conflict and negative intention being projected into our shared environment.
So we are essentially swimming in our own bad vibes. If the collective human consciousness is constantly broadcasting anger, the physical foundation of the world is absorbing it.
Yes, and because of this vulnerability, the text recounts a very specific and somewhat terrifying ritual performed by Seng Zhenim.
Okay.
He took a bowl of Jiangsu, which is clear, pure water, and he stated that by simply dropping a single matchstick into that bowl of water, it symbolized how easily the heavens could trigger a gaebyeop, a cosmic reset.
Wait, a matchstick represents fire. Is the implication here that even a tiny spark of human aggression, like just a single matchstick of negative energy, is enough for the universe to trigger a watery reset just to put the fire out?
That is a brilliant way to interpret it, yeah. The symbolism is that this simple act would turn the entire world back into Suguk, which means a water world, to cleanse it of that toxic fire.
Wow.
The underlying message is that because water is the origin of everything, resetting everything via water is incredibly easy for the universe. It is a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability when we fall out of harmony.
I really want to connect this directly to you, the listener, for a second. Think about the implications of this. The human body is roughly 60% water. Your brain is even higher, closer to 75%. And the planet we live on is famously the blue marble covered in oceans.
Right.
If this philosophy holds true, that water acts as an ultimate receptor that absorbs the energy of our words, our hatred, our conflict, then how we speak to each other is not just a matter of social etiquette.
At all.
How we treat each other is literally altering the physical makeup of our reality. We aren't just hurting feelings with our anger, we are poisoning the structural foundation of the big house.
Which brings us to the ultimate practical takeaway of the text. Knowing all this about the immense power, the memory, and the foundational nature of water, how should we live our daily lives?
Right.
To answer that, the lecture brings in a famous concept from the Tao Te Ching, which is heavily emphasized in this tradition. The concept is Sengsen Yaksu.
Sengsen Yaksu, what does that phrase translate to?
It translates to, the highest good is like water.
You know, I've heard variations of that phrase before, mostly on like inspirational posters. But in the context of everything we've just discussed, tail, gaebyeop, amniotic fluid, cosmic resets, it carries so much more weight. How do they interpret the highest good in this specific framework?
Well, they break down the actual physical behavior of water to find moral instruction. Look at what water does in nature. It always flows downwards.
Sure.
It actively seeks the lowest places, the valleys and crevices that humans usually despise, ignore, or avoid. It yields. When a river hits a boulder, it doesn't try to smash the rock in a direct, ego-driven conflict.
It navigates around the obstacle without forcing its way.
Exactly. And most importantly, it selflessly nurtures all life plants, animals, humans, without ever demanding credit or compensation.
It is entirely devoid of ego. We usually associate strength with that concrete foundation we talked about earlier. We think the highest good is being unyielding, standing your ground, being the hardest substance in the room. But this text argues that true strength is the exact opposite.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to be truly happy and aligned with this universe, we must mimic the material it was made from.
Right.
If the universe was built from yielding, flowing water, then adopting a rigid, unyielding ego is fundamentally anti-universe. We have to mimic water. We have to lower our egos, flow downward to elevate those who are beneath us, and yield to others instead of engaging in constant friction.
Because we all share that dongi. We all share that same original breath, right down to the broken roof tile.
Huh.
So elevating others, flowing downward to nurture the lowest parts of society isn't just an act of charity. It's maintaining the structural integrity of your own house.
The text equates this natural behavior of water with the ultimate virtue of yin, which is often translated from classical Chinese as benevolence or true humanity. To be fully human is to act like water.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive looking at a cosmic mystery, the seed of tail. We explored how that singular dark potential, that cosmic stem cell, had to split into the cosmic house of yin and yang, generating the necessary friction for life. We realized that the Big Bang isn't a one-time linear creation event, but rather gaebyeop, the opening of a watery cycle that breathes in and out over eons. And we discovered that our very own biology, floating in the sheep water of amniotic fluid, is a perfect fractal reenactment of the cosmos being born.
It is a breathtaking framework. It manages to seamlessly connect the unimaginable vastness of astrophysics to the intimate reality of a mother's womb, and it does it all through a single, humble element.
It really does, and I want
Yeah.
you to remember this. The next time you walk into your kitchen and pour yourself a simple glass of tap water, realize that you aren't just hydrating. If you look through the lens of these ancient texts, you are holding the origin of the universe in your hand.
Yeah.
You're consuming the ultimate teacher of humility, of yielding, and of benevolence.
It completely transforms how you see the mundane aspects of your day.
It absolutely does. And
Yeah.
it leaves me with one final thought I want to pass on to you to mull over today. We spent a lot of time unpacking the idea that water might hold memory, that its blank slate nature allows it to physically respond to the words and intentions we project into it.
Yes.
And considering that your physical body, your firing brain synapses, and our shared blue planet are predominantly made of this exact fluid, what happens to our shared reality if we collectively decide to change the script we are speaking into the world every single day?
It's a powerful question, and perhaps the most important one we can ask ourselves.
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us. Keep questioning your foundations, stay fluid, and we will catch you on the next one.